Well, everyone was distracted with the crazy week of Trump coming into office. Two multi-trillion-dollar BRICS nations quietly made a bigger move into Bitcoin. You heard that right. The Bitcoin price is going sideways, but the Bitcoin hash rate continues to hit all-time highs. And some people think that the price should be over 500,000 considering what the hash rate is right now. And the hash rate shows no signs of slowing down whatsoever. Are these BRIC nations welcoming Bitcoin to prepare for Trump's proposition of placing Trump's 100% tariffs for not using the US dollar? Let's play you the clip of Trump talking about those tariffs, and then we'll talk about it.
If a country tells me, sir, we like you very much, but we're going to no longer adhere to being in the reserve currency, we're not going to salute the dollar anymore, I'll say that's okay. And you're going to pay a 100% tariff on everything you sell into the United States. And we love your product. I hope you sell a lot of it into the United States, but you're going to pay 100% tariff. He will then follow it up by saying, sir, it would be an honor to stay with the reserve currency. That will be like just playing. That's not even chess, that's checkers. But you don't have listen to this.
So I just got to say, Trump is a natural born comedian. And the other thing that I'll say as well is this really interesting phenomenon, right? Like it's like a global currency war. The US government wants the dollar to stay on top. BRICS nations are, looking into Bitcoin, like the news coming out of Russia, basically making the case that they want to use Bitcoin to quote unquote circumvent the sanctions. Of course, other BRIC nations are incentivized to look for dollar alternatives. And what I got to say about all this is like when currencies compete for, I guess, business and people and Bitcoin, I think the individual wins in this situation. So it's going to be like a very interesting phenomenon to see, where this goes over the next couple of years. And especially with the pro Bitcoin administration in the White House right now. I mean, I know it wasn't perfect. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Ross has been freed. The repeal of SAB 121, which was horrible. The end of the Biden administration's Operation Choke Point 2.0. I know there's been a little bit of, altcoin degeneracy and whatever, but hey, politics is all about compromise. And I think that's important to keep in mind. But let's go through some of this. What am I talking about in regards to the hash rate? What am I talking about in regards to what are these BRIC nations? Who are they? So let's start off with Russia. Russia earlier on the year passed a law that would be essentially making mining legal in certain areas of the country. Here's one of the recent headlines. Russia's Rosseti to launch crypto mining operations in low demand areas. I mean, this perfectly makes sense. Bitcoin uses energy that was otherwise going to waste, stranded energy. That's why it's economic. It's economical. This energy is in isolated areas. It's not very. It's pretty difficult to transport energy over long distances. It like kind of loses its. Think of it like a battery. Like if you leave your iPhone your nightstand and you charge it to 100%, you wake up the next day, it's at like 99. So if you transport energy over long distances, it doesn't quite make sense. So you kind of have to use it on the spot. And that's where Bitcoin miners come through, because essentially Bitcoin miners can go anywhere around the world. You could just pick up an S9 or an S19, plug it in the middle of nowhere, have a Starlink or whatever, and boom, you're mining Bitcoin, right? So you go to stranded energy pockets, and that makes it very economical to mine. Also, news coming out of Paraguay, massive news. Bitfarm sells its Paraguay site to HIVE for $85 million. So this is a global phenomenon. And of course, the news coming out of Brazil, Brazilian congressman introduces bill for national Bitcoin reserve. Also, very similar news coming out of Russia. The Russian State Duma, which is the equivalent of the House of Representatives here in the United States, made an announcement that they were essentially they were looking into making a strategic Bitcoin reserve as well. So again, it's this like nation state game theory incentive thing playing out is extremely exciting. And I think we're just in the very beginnings of the disintermediation of money and state. And it's extremely exciting to have this kind of front row experience to all of this. Anyways, on today's show, we have Alex McShane. Alex McShane is the director of programming at the Bitcoin conference. And of course, my legendary co-host, who's always optimistic, Optimus Fields. I do want to give a shout out to everybody watching the show right now. If you guys are enjoying the show, help us break 100 likes within the first 12 minutes or 10 minutes of the show. So smash that like button if you guys are watching us. But yeah, I want to pass it on to McShane. McShane, you guys pulled off a miracle last year at the Bitcoin conference by getting then presidential candidate Donald Trump at the event. And not only that, RFK Jr. as well. So do you have any thoughts on some of the news and headlines that I was covering?
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic. I'm pretty happy to see some follow through on the things we were promised. I was very, very skeptical of the Trump administration, but all politicians in general, just catering to Bitcoiners, making promises in turn for our donations and sort of support and cheerleading. You know, Bitcoiners love to rally behind other supposed Bitcoiners, and so far Trump's followed through on what he's promised. I think people might have forgotten a little bit the specifics of the promises that he's made, and maybe had higher hopes for a Bitcoin exclusive sort of new accumulation for the United States. It's interesting times, man. It's super bullish, but it's very strange and sort of unreal to see, like you said, the game theory playing out. And actually, I would say the opposite. It's almost like the intermediation of money and state, because we have states looking to embrace the real money, which is Bitcoin in the world. So it's crazy times, man. It's very confusing.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk a little bit about that also during the news segment. The state of Arizona apparently has been making progress there. I'll read you guys the headline. Arizona Senate moves forward with Bitcoin reserve legislation. So big news, potential Bitcoin adoption on the federal level with McShane, what did you think about the executive order? I think a lot of us Bitcoiners were expecting an official strategic Bitcoin reserve announcement. American Hodl said we got rugged. I know that there was a lot of pressure by the Ripple lobby to kind of stop that. What are your thoughts, McShane?
My thoughts were, I've been trying to get this interview released. I did an interview a few months ago where I predicted that this would happen because the U.S. already owns a lot of Bitcoin. We already have a strategic reserve, quote unquote, even if we're not allowed to, or it might be illegal, like a very dicey issue to use this Bitcoin in any sort of way. The U.S. can simply not sell it, and they have about 190, 200,000 Bitcoin that are stolen. And I'm not advocating that they should keep these stolen Bitcoin as their own, but it seemed likely at the time that was a pretty big disincentive not to spend more money to buy more. That's basically what's happened today. That's the stockpile. We're not seeing that new buying. It's going to be at least 180 days before we see some sort of decision from this kind of crypto council thing on whether or not they're going to approve new buying. It's very unclear whether this is going to be exclusive to Bitcoin. It seems very obvious that other lobbies with a lot more spending power than other crypto contingents are going to worm their way in there and get their coins accumulated as well. And let's not forget what kicked off this whole sideways or kind of bear season. The Trumps just launching tokens left and right. So it's been pretty jarring, man, to watch all this unfold.
Absolutely. I mean, the Trump coin release on Friday, 3 days before the inauguration. Like, God damn. A lot of people are like, Gary Gensler was right. Oh, man. Opti, you were saying Gary Gensler was right. What are your thoughts, brother?
Gary Gensler is my hero. He protected us from shitcoins. No. I mean, I'm kind of trolling when I say that, but You know, in hindsight, you can make up whatever story you want. So, you know, I like trolling a little bit. But yeah, going back to this news story, Nico, we forgot one big news story here, and I'm going to pull it up real quick because it really just goes to show that the global game theory or hash war that Kaiser's been saying for a long time is actually playing out. So a lot of people are basically waiting for a strategic Bitcoin reserve somewhere around the world, whether it's on a state level or a federal level, you know, at the toppest echelons or on a state level in the US. But what we're seeing is a lot of people are starting to look for opportunities to mine Bitcoin. And mining Bitcoin isn't like a sexy topic here. You know, people seem to forget that some of the most important people in Bitcoin are the miners out there. And you're seeing that, in fact, Bitcoin mining isn't going to boil the oceans. It's not going to take all the world's energy. And it's a great way to profit. And we're seeing this one. So here's a headline here, guys. So Petrobras leverages flared gas for Bitcoin mining, and they're a huge state-sanctioned oil company in Brazil. So, you know, Russia, Brazil are now actively looking to mine Bitcoin. And you're starting to see that more people around the world are waking up to this very thing that, hey, if you want to stay profitable, you might want to start looking into Bitcoin mining. And again, everyone's been kind of has their eye on the ball on the strategic Bitcoin reserve. But I think these plays right now that we're seeing play out in regards to energy are some of the bigger evolutions that we're seeing happen right now. Obviously, the hash rate is just continuing to rip. And there's the saying, you know, or price follows hash. Hash rate keeps hitting all-time high. I forget what Kaiser's been saying out there, but Kaiser's been predicting that apparently because of the hash rate, the Bitcoin price should be at around 500K. Who knows what is actually going to happen with the price right now? But you're seeing that it's almost like the sovereign individual thesis playing out right now as the U.S. tries to clamp down and control their world currency status. A lot of countries are looking away. And obviously, this is why you're seeing Trump posturing and saying, hey, you want to leave the dollar, you know, have fun. What do you say? If you don't want to salute the dollar, have fun playing with whatever you want to do. But we're just going to slap tariffs on you. So you're seeing that the monetary controls right now, the currency controls are playing out. And the BRICS nation has been posturing, or rather all of the BRICS nations have been posturing for the last couple of months. And I guess all of last year, basically, that they're trying to move away from the dollar. They tried to create their own currency. We're seeing a lot of BRICS nations kind of slowly and slyly embrace Bitcoin on the background. It's not really making too many headlines, but I think these conversations are very important to kind of parse out what's actually happening. Is the dollar is, you know, even though it's the strongest currency in the world right now, people are looking to move away from the dollar. Like there isn't much interest in U.S. government debt right now, and people are looking for alternatives. And obviously, we think Bitcoin is that alternative. Bitcoin mining is going to do well for energy sectors all around the world. You know, there's a lot of talks about Bitcoin citadels happening this year. I think things are ramping up, but everyone's still kind of caught up in the Bitcoin strategic reserve right now. And they're like, yeah, once a nation state kind of puts Bitcoin on their balance sheet, or whoever starts printing money to buy Bitcoin, then obviously numbers going to go up incredibly. But I think seeing Bitcoin mining continue to be distributed around the world, even if it's state sanctioned, I think just goes to show that the game theory and the incentives around Bitcoin, just holding it, and of course, Bitcoin mining, is starting to catch on. And this is all pure economics. And, you know, the economics runs the world right now. Everything that we're seeing play out in the last couple of days, and I was going to say weeks, but last couple of days is really just trying to maintain, you know, the world dominance in Wall Street right now. They're trying to continue the Wall Street price to go up. And it looks like people are looking for alternatives. So the U.S. government right now is in a precarious place where they have to make government debt look interesting for people. And obviously, one of the ways for them to do that is to add Bitcoin to the balance sheet, create these Bitcoin bonds, try to get interest back into U.S. treasuries. And as a Bitcoiner, like, you know, McShane was saying, even though we're in the separation of money and state, it seems like there is this symbiotic relationship right now where they have to embrace Bitcoin to kind of continue to kick the ball down the road. So it's a very interesting time there that we find ourselves in as Bitcoiners. I know a lot of Bitcoiners are feeling a little icky because it's like, wait, do we like politicians now?
Yes.
Or what?
Well, there's this weird incentive where people have to get that number to go up to pump the price of the thing. We're just cheerleading and applauding any interaction that every government has with Bitcoin overall. where I think as you're saying, Opti, like the real thing to be bullish about here is the integration of Bitcoin into energy across the world, and it's the real kind of self custody of Bitcoin. It's not so much these big, initiatives that are gonna pump the price in the short term, but it is the actual localized adoption. Those are the things I get excited about. I remember in the bear market when we used to say things like come for the number, go up, stay for the freedom. That sort of, it's hard to remember that now when we've experienced such price appreciation. But I think those are the initiatives really worth, it's like that trope, just like think and act locally, think globally. At the end of the day, there's very little control that we as individuals have over these state actors. They're going to do whatever they want to do and whatever benefits them. So it's just like, hey, keep talking to your local. I mean, like let's point out, what did Jack say just this week? It was kind of interesting. He went back to, if Bitcoin ends up just being a store of value, it's essentially failed on like a couple of its core premises. I would kind of agree with that. We've seen a regression from the 2020 bull market, where we're already getting into the medium of exchange talks and actually cheerleading Bitcoin and becoming a sort of unit of account. We've moved backwards in the United States specifically. It's a lot harder to coin join here. It's a lot harder to use Lightning and to run a Lightning business. It might be that Lightning is just for enterprises overall, so we have scaling issues that we need to address as a community. I think there's just a lot more important things happening now than whether or not the US decides to like steal or buy more Bitcoin.
Yeah, 100%. Very good points. Very interesting. Just with the geopolitical implications, what's going to be happening, the political situations, Trump in the White House, Bukele, of course, doing its thing. And again, you're now seeing nation states all around the world. Look, I think, it is 6 months, right? 180 days. If this thing does get announced, like, I think you're going to see global FOMO, the likes of which we've never seen before. I think countries are going to be forced to buy Bitcoin. They're not going to have a choice.
Mm-hmm. It's funny because the strategy is at odds of what you should do. I mean, the government is not a rational economic actor, maybe the least rational economic actors of them all. Like, if you play El Salvador back, the thing to do would have been not to tell anyone to just shut up and accumulate Bitcoin quietly. They're going to send the price through the roof and price themselves out immediately.
100% agree. Very interesting stuff, guys. We'll stay on top of it. Before we start the show, I do want to give a very special shout out to Simply Bitcoin's lead sponsor, BitcoinWell.com. Best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. Enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin on-chain or via the Lightning Network in Canada and the USA. What makes Bitcoin Well different is that it's a completely non-custodial platform. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, as soon as the funds clear, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. If you're a higher net worth individual looking to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin or more, and you're tired of dealing with finicky UI, terrible, customer support, and you want an actual human being that you can call or text every time you want to buy or sell Bitcoin, check out Bitcoin Well Infinite. Go to bitcoinwell.com/OTC. And if you live in the United States, Americans can now get paid in Bitcoin sent directly to their personal Bitcoin wallet. Share your Bitcoin Well direct deposit details with your employer, set your Bitcoin/dollar split, and receive sats instead of fiat with every paycheck. So go to bitcoinwell.com today to get started. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers. We have tons to talk about. I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stampseed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed words really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of writing them down on paper. Don't do that. Paper sucks. You want to literally stamp your seed into this plate of
titanium. Your words are actually stamped into the metal plate with this hammer. So once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and your pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They are also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and most importantly, because this is generational wealth, time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin for the long haul. I mean, here is the plate that they crushed. They put in water, they put a blowtorch to it, and as you can see, the words have survived. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. And you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on their store.
All right, everybody. At the time of recording, we're at 102,460. By the way, scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. Go to stampseed.com today. Use promo code SIMPLY, 15% off. Block height, 881,228 sats per dollar, 976 market cap, 2.03 trillion. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 10.58%. Percentage issued, 94.36%. Decline from all-time high, negative 6.1%. Realized monetary inflation, 1.04%. In the grand scheme of things, we're just getting started. Let's talk about this gentleman right here. His name is Michael Saylor. Made a huge announcement. I believe this was on Monday. MicroStrategy today announced the launch of STRK, a new convertible preferred stock offering available to institutional investors and select retail investors. To view the investor presentation video, learn more about participating and access to key details, click here. Here's a little bit more information about what this is. It goes on to say the business intelligence and Bitcoin focused company MicroStrategy Incorporated shares are trading lower on Monday. The company disclosed plans to offer $2.5 million shares of its Series A perpetual strike preferred stock in a public offering. The company expects to use proceeds for general corporate purposes, including Bitcoin acquisitions and working capital. MicroStrategy's perpetual strike preferred stock carries a $100 per share liquidation preference and will accrue fixed rate cumulative dividends and set at pricing. The company stated that declared dividends on the perpetual strike preferred stock will be payable quarterly starting March 31st, 2025 in cash, Class A common stock, or a mix of both. Hodlers of MicroStrategy, this say hodlers? It doesn't say hodlers, this is holders. Freudian slip. Holders of MicroStrategy's perpetual strike preferred stock can convert their shares into Class A common stock under specific conditions and during designated periods. Now, what's really interesting about this is Michael Saylor actually had a presentation recently where he doubled down from his predictions from the Bitcoin conference in Nashville. It's about a 2-minute video. Let's check it out.
Let me switch gears to a 21-year outlook of Bitcoin. What do I think is going to happen? Well, I've got an open source model. It's called Bitcoin 24. You can Google it. It's on GitHub. You can download this. You can plug in all your assumptions and create your own forecast. But I think looking out over the next 21 years, you know, I think the money supply, the currency supply will continue to grow. You're going to continue to see innovation. You're going to see equities continue to grow. Gold will gradually underperform. Of course, Bitcoin's going to overperform. Equities will overperform because of AI and technology. And this is a simple view I put forth in Nashville in July, and I haven't really changed from it. I expect that Bitcoin's going to go from 60% ARR decelerating to 20% for a blended rate of 29%. You want a simple view of the market. You just think, here's something which is 29% ARR for the next 21 years, targeting $13 million a coin. And if you look at that against our map of wealth, it's not that radically different. Just Bitcoin becomes the global monetary index, a $280 trillion asset class. Equities will still be bigger. Real estate will still be bigger. Bonds will still be bigger. It's just, you know, if you want to get rich, you're not getting rich investing in gold, right? If you want to stay rich, you can probably hold a diversified portfolio of real estate and equity. If you want to
So, I mean, dude, doubling tripling, quadrupling down. If you're going to outperform, you're going to need Bitcoin. I believe he said initially it's going to be a 60% CAGR. Is that what it is? Is that how you say it? CAGR?
ARR.
Is it AR?
And then it'll,
Yep.
yeah, and it'll decrease to about 30%, or what do you say, 29% over time. Base. That's pretty bullish, man. It's pretty exciting. Gets me fired
absolutely. I mean, so he made that original presentation at the Bitcoin conference. Did you have any idea what the presentation was going to be about, McShane?
Yeah, I reviewed all 95 slides with Saylor before.
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah. He turned in like 100 slides
because you had to approve it.
Yeah, well, also just help him kind of figure out what's going to be on the lot. Just go through technical stuff with him, make sure everything works. He's just a very particular guy. So that was I think it was one of his best presentations of all time, and he's been giving some version of that now for a little while, but that was the first time it had aired. And had gotten price predictions always get people incredibly excited, but just the way that he rationalized it and backed it and coming out with this open source model was just very, very exciting. I'm really curious to see how he outdoes himself. He's got a big presentation planned for Vegas. So I'm very curious what's to come for MicroStrategy. I asked him, I told him his New Year's resolution should be to buy like 500 million worth of Bitcoin a day. And he's not quite done that this year, but it's several billion. And we're already, only 28 days into 2025, and he's absolutely crushing it. So very bullish on the future of MicroStrategy.
100%. And I mean, their stock has just outperformed. Like, it's been absolutely crazy, the performance of that stock. I mean, what, it 5x'd in 1 year? It almost made me feel like, McShane, I should have just bought MicroStrategy instead of Bitcoin.
It's one of those things, man. You don't hear those narratives anymore. Me and you and Opti, like, we feel this in our soul, just like, don't deviate from Bitcoin. You can't, how dare you try to seek gains somewhere else, but I mean, I'll admit, over the years, like, my Bitcoin position has become more comfortable, and I have ventured back into equities a little bit. Nothing crazy, all Bitcoin related, but particularly Metaplanet. I'm very bullish on Metaplanet and MicroStrategy. So I hold a bit of each, and what's happened is they have indeed outperformed Bitcoin, and it's grown as a percentage allocation. Let's say it was 5%, it's grown to 10, 15% of my portfolio, just because they've been so performative. But that being said, it's not something I would recommend people do, because it's highly risky. There's a lot more risk involved there than Bitcoin itself. And you don't ultimately, it's not something you can self-custody. It doesn't fit my definition of ownership. So it is always going to be this relatively small play in terms of just like the grander goal of accumulating more Bitcoin, which is the one property you can sort of own and defend and hold with you through this life and pass on to your children without permission, from anyone. Bit of a rant there, but we always have to make these kind of calculations and trade-offs, because you're going to look over your shoulder and see people getting tremendously wealthy, but you're not going to see the millions that have tried and lost it all on Melania coin last week. You know what I mean? Like,
oh man, that's so true. That's a great point. And yeah, man, I wish I would have followed your strategy a little bit, McShane, about taking 5 to 10% of the portfolio. Because again, you would. It's just, man, shoulda, woulda, coulda. But Opti, what's your take on this? Are you Bitcoin only, Bitcoin and self custody only? Are you a MicroStrategy fan? Are you a Michael Saylor prediction fan? What's your take, Opti?
Well, I'm obviously a huge Michael Saylor prediction fan. I mean, who doesn't like $50 million predictions in 20 years? Like, hey, I love some bull sauce every once in a while, but when you really kind of break it down, even if you're doing the conservative predictions, it's still outperforming everything else. And so, like, even if you do the very simple strategy that I run, it's just literally just buy as much Bitcoin, hold it for as long as possible, you're going to outperform everything else. But yeah, when you look at how MicroStrategy has performed, I mean, it's hard not to, 2020 is hindsight and look back and be like, damn, I should have definitely bought some. But like McShane's saying, there is more risks that do come with holding MicroStrategy or Metaplanet or any of these other Bitcoin adjacent companies than just holding Bitcoin. And personally, where I've been, it has kind of sucked just looking at MicroStrategy pump so hard. You're like, man, 5x sounds great, while Bitcoin only did what? And this is the best part. MicroStrategy is 5x, Bitcoin only does 124% a year, and we're like, man, this is not enough gains for me, man. Like, what's going on here? We're so spoiled. But hey, his predictions, I think, are very conservative when you look at it. What, 29% ARR? It's like, nothing's growing 29% year over year. And if you really want to succeed, you want a very simple strategy to do. You just keep buying Bitcoin, because everything is going to zero against Bitcoin. Bitcoin's outperforming everything else. Obviously, we think 2025 is going to be the year of the, parabolic run. And by the end of this year, I think we should have at least hit mid six figures, in my opinion. And then we'll just have to see what happens in 2026. Are we going to get a standard Bitcoin bear market? I think that's still pretty likely, but yeah, I like Saylor's predictions. Who doesn't like a billionaire conservatively predicting $1 million Bitcoins in a decade or two? Like, yeah, that sounds great. But imagine being someone in the audience that doesn't understand what's happening, and Saylor's giving these predictions. They're probably like, this guy's a lunatic. Like, this is not going to happen. Bitcoin's at 100K. It's over. Yesterday, everyone's like, Bitcoin's dead. It went to 99K. And it's like, I love the fact that Bitcoin just going under 100K means it's over for us. So
yeah. Sorry to interrupt. It's wild to see, especially like in normie land, just the mental gymnastics people will do to avoid having to think seriously about Bitcoin is insane to me. Like, it's at 100K now. Oh, I'm priced out. I can't buy this. I can't buy into this mess. Trump supports it. It's this like deep red sort of asset. We can't touch this. Like, people will do anything to avoid having to basically reconfigure their priors about money in general, and just admit that they were, somewhat like deluded and wrong, and then just learning new things. It's really sad to see. And with MicroStrategy, I think you see that too. I think people, like I said, they get super jealous, or maybe they're coveting other people's stacks and performance. You got to realize, like, most people did not trade that perfectly. They did not trade the MicroStrategy perfectly and put all those gains back into Bitcoin, and you probably wouldn't have either. And at the end of the day, what is the guy buying? What's the underlying asset that he's going to these lengths to buy billions and billions and billions of? It's like, just buy the Bitcoin yourself and learn to self-custody it. That in itself is worth more, than anything else you could probably put your effort toward in terms of like wealth accumulation this year.
100%.
Yeah, wait, McShane, that's like the funniest part. It's like, everyone's making fat gains on MicroStrategy, and all he's doing is buying Bitcoin. It's like, maybe you just buy the Bitcoin, guys. Maybe that's the simplest strategy here.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, we got a loaded show for you guys today. We're going to talk to Alex McShane during the culture segment. And during the news segment, we have a bit of an update for you guys. Arizona Senate moves forward with Bitcoin reserve legislation, and massive news coming out of HIVE. They acquired Bitfarms' 200 megawatt Paraguay site, targeting 400% global hash rate growth by September. So absolutely huge. We're going to get to that news. We'll be right back in just a moment.
I want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor, Compass Mining. They make Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone, from beginners to experienced investors. Their turnkey miners gets you online and hashing within 48 hours, making it easier than ever to start your mining journey. Plus, with their active marketplace, you can resell your miner at any time, adding flexibility and value to your investment. Visit their website to access a wealth of resources, learning everything you need to know about Bitcoin mining. Take your first step into the world of Bitcoin mining with confidence. Discover more at compassmining.io. Again, compassmining.io, and see how Compass Mining can power your success. I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US, and it integrates seamlessly with their free app called Envoy. Passport is fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a classic feature phone, so you'll know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. It's also air-gapped, meaning Bitcoin stays offline, never touching an internet connection. It's Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, air-gap security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes with Passport at foundation.xyz/simply. Get peace of mind.
All right. Before we start that, Opti, we have a question. What to TF is
Hey,
PodConf?
I don't even know. You're the PodConf approved podcaster here. So
Shut up.
I am just rocking this shirt in solidarity.
All right, everybody. I do want to give a shout out to Passport by Foundation Devices. Opti is holding it up. You could use promo code Simply. You will get a discount. You won't get Opti, but you will get a discount to the Passport by Foundation Devices. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. All right, let's jump into today's news. The big kahuna, Arizona Senate moves forward with Bitcoin reserve legislation. Arizona lawmakers have advanced a Bitcoin strategic reserve bill, which seeks to deploy the world's first cryptocurrency as a savings technology for the state. The Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Act, co-sponsored by Senator Wendy Rogers and Representative Jeff was passed by the Arizona State Senate Finance Committee with a 5-2 vote on January 27th. The bill will now move to the Senate Rules Committee for final debate and amendments. Approval by the Senate would advance the bill to the House of Representatives. The bill proposes the creation of a strategic Bitcoin reserve by the U.S. Treasury for the, quote, the storage of government Bitcoin holdings, which also allow other public funds to store their digital assets in a, quote, secure, segregated account within the strategic Bitcoin reserve. It goes on to say the bill would allow up to 10% of government entities and public funds capital to be invested into Bitcoin and other digital assets. It also opens the door to pension funds to allocate resources to Bitcoin, potentially increasing public interest in cryptocurrencies. So, I mean, again, this is a trend that we're seeing worldwide on the federal level, of course. On the state level, multiple states have been introducing these bills into legislation. I believe the state of Pennsylvania, Ohio, I think Florida. I don't know if it's being introduced, but I heard someone talk about it. Yeah, I mean, this is crazy that this is happening all over the U.S. And of course, on the federal level, you have Senator Cynthia Lummis with the Bitcoin Reserve Act bill, or Bitcoin Act, I think it's called. So it's very, very exciting stuff. McShane, you've been at the forefront of this to do a good job with the programming over at the Bitcoin conference. So what are your thoughts, man? Are we going to see more of this trend continue? Are we going to see one of these bills actually get passed?
I think if the amount of Congress people reaching out to me to speak at the conference is any indication, you're going to see a lot more legislation be introduced over the next couple months here. It's kind of wild to see, man. It's really hard to wrap my mind around as like a largely non-political person for the most of my life. I think a lot of Bitcoiners might feel this way if you're like more libertarian inclined or just didn't pay that much attention to politics. Having to start to parse and understand this stuff and kind of weigh, who is being earnest, like who's going to follow through on everything that they're promising Bitcoiners, like who's really doing the work. It's sad, but I've had to turn people down from both parties because I'm like, look, you've never said the word Bitcoin in a public forum. I mean, you've never done anything for us. I can't trust that you have our best interest in mind. Why don't you come and just attend? And I think it's an important reminder for everyone in the space, especially people, lobbying for Bitcoin. Like, it's okay to demand a little proof of work. Let's see what these people, what time they put in to Bitcoin to understand it first and foremost, before we just sort of hand them over the keys to our networks here.
So could you talk a little bit about that, McShane? Because you buried a lot of leads there, and you gave a lot of insight into perhaps like things that people are not aware of in regards to the programming that you guys do over at the conference. So there is a filter. You guys want people that are actually, they're not opportunists. They're not opportunists. They're people that actually believe in Bitcoin. Did I hear that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, not even as much as a belief. I'm just like, what? what have you had to do with the Bitcoin space? Like, why is you calling me? Why does it seem like y'all are calling me just because your fellow Congress people have called and aren't going to be present? Like, this seems to me like it's a popularity contest between y'all, and it's like if certain big names are going to be in a place, you all just kind of jump on and have to be there just to you know what I mean? It's a social, like, virtue signaling type of thing. I don't have time for that. I want to see skin in the game. I want to see, you work for us as politicians. I'm sorry, but you actually have to show what you've done for us lately and what you can do. And, I just want to see the proof of work. It's like, I'm not going to trust these people blindly.
I love that.
So there's a lot of conversations and debates being had behind closed doors to make sure that this is a differentiated value addition to Bitcoin, and we're not just paying lip service to our community by having politicians at these events. So, like, if they're going to come, we want them to make an impact, and we want them to come open-minded and ready to kind of learn about the space.
I love that, man. And I love that there's a filter. I love that it's not just, oh, you know what? So you're a congressman from Ohio, you're a congressman. Like, show me. We're not gonna just give you stage time so that you can campaign, essentially, right? So I love that there's a filter, and I appreciate the insight into that. And I had no idea too, bro, that you went through Michael Saylor's presentation before, just to pick and choose to see what things were going. Man, I didn't, McShane, goddamn, bro. I know you had so much. Maybe that's probably why it's so good. The programming and all that stuff. I had no idea you were so involved in the final outcome. That's pretty badass.
Yeah, it's that's why I'm hiring, by the way. I think you can go to Bitcoiner Jobs. I'm trying to get some help here. Me and Craig with programming are hiring a enthusiastic new Bitcoiner. All comers welcome. The app's open for now, but if you want to work on this kind of stuff and help prepare announcements and help prepare panels and do some, I guess you'd call it, thought leadership in the conference space, please come and join us. Sorry, just had to put that out there.
No, absolutely. So is your Twitter DMs open? Could they send you a message there, or is it Bitcoiner Jobs?
Yeah, let me pull up a link for you to send them, because I probably won't get to it if they DM me, but if they apply, we'll definitely see it.
Absolutely. We'll put that in the chat. Opti, you want to chime in while McShane pulls up the link?
Yeah, well, first of all, what McShane said is very interesting, and it's something I've been saying for a while on the show, is that Bitcoin as a movement has basically, come out of the mother's basement here. And, the fact that you have politicians trying to campaign at the conference, I think is very telling of where we are right now, is that people are starting to see, and it's something we've said on the show many times, that if you fight Bitcoiners, you may not get in these positions of office, but it also means you have to have some follow through. And we're seeing that play out in real time. Obviously, midterms are in a year, 2 years away from now, another 4-year cycle for the presidential election. But you're seeing that Bitcoiners, as Kaiser always loves to say, he who has the money makes the rules, and he who has the best money will make the best rules. And so we're seeing that's playing out in real time. And I think that's very interesting to hear McShane say, like, if you guys could hear all the people that are reaching out to us, you'd be way more bullish than you are. Now, obviously, we need to see a little more follow through. And that brings me to this Arizona Senate vote. I think a lot of us Bitcoiners at this point are kind of tired of a lot of these announcements of strategic reserve bills coming from the state level. I think now with this Arizona, we're up to 12. So, we've heard this before. If you're not first, you're last. And now at this point, we're all kind of already have fatigue around these announcements. Like, cool, you proposed a bill to talk about it. Like, not big news anymore. And we've kind of seen this on our views and our viewership. People are kind of just tuning out already. It's not as big of news as if something gets implemented. But the fact that this is getting moved forward in Arizona, I think is huge. Not only is that going to kick off the state level game theory, where, hey, if Arizona becomes the first one, then I'm sure we're going to see the dominoes fall very quickly in every other state. And if you're not a state that embraces Bitcoin, then you are going to essentially be left behind. So I think probably in the next couple of days, or maybe the next couple of weeks, we'll hear more states actually come to the same point where, hey, now they're actually voting on it. It's not just proposing a bill. because at this point, it's almost like every state's proposing a bill. Even though it's only 12, there's still 50 more to go, or what, 38 more to go. But we're getting to the point now where the rubber is meeting the road. So whether it's the 6 months that we have to wait to see the U.S. actually embark on their strategic reserve, and however the technicalities of that plays out, or if it's a state that's just like, hey, we're adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet. Like, we're seeing pension funds embrace Bitcoin. We're seeing the institutions embrace Bitcoin. We're seeing states start to embrace Bitcoin. We're seeing countries start to embrace Bitcoin. Obviously, hopefully, all of this signal starts to trickle down, and we see more individuals start to realize that, hey, you need to have some Bitcoin, or else you're going to be left behind. And I don't know if you guys are following normie culture right now, but a lot of people are very upset with inflation and everything going on, and they're lost and they don't know what's going on. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. There's a lot of noise going on in the world. And the signal for everyone is just, hey, I know you're struggling, but you need to start to save something in Bitcoin. And this is only going to catch on, I think, as we move into 2025. And if we break out of this like 100K sideways action, I think the FOMO is going to really start to kick in, and we're going to see these legislatures and politicians really start to embrace Bitcoin. But like McShane was saying, not only give us rhetoric around Bitcoin, but actually have some follow through and some proof of work behind it. And hey, it looks like 2025 is just going to be a big year.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. All right, guys, stay tuned for the culture. We're going to talk to McShane about all things McShane, all things Bitcoin conference. We have Las Vegas coming up. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, HIVE Digital Technologies. As the first ever public miner, HIVE's been battle tested through every possible market. And as the first with an AI strategy, HIVE continues to redefine the future of sustainable energy. Also, gotta casually drop this in here, HIVE consistently tops the industry in Bitcoin mined per exahash. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're changing the game. Learn more by following them at HIVE Digital Tech, or check out their website, hivedigitaltech.com.
All right, everybody, I do want to give a special shout out to our sponsor, BitBlockBoom. Network with fellow Bitcoiners April 3rd through the 6th, 2025. Dallas, Texas. The tickets do go up in 7 days. You want to get your tickets quickly. We'll see you guys at the conference. Use promo code BB21 to get $100 off of your tickets. All right, I do want to pull this up because McShane was mentioning this earlier. Buried the lead a little bit for anyone who's looking to join McShane's team. McShane, please correct me if I'm wrong. You guys are looking for a program coordinator events. I'm going to read some of this. We create meaningful environments for people to connect, celebrate, and champion Bitcoin. Our events provide learning at every level, networking personally and professionally, and support Bitcoiners in many ways. Whether a newcomer, technologist, a business investor, or developer collaborating on open source projects, our conferences have you covered. With 4 annual events in 4 countries, we're on a mission to build powerful experiences that amplify and elevate the Bitcoin movement. You guys could check a link to this. We dropped it in the live chat. You could also check it out in the YouTube description and in the podcast description. So, McShane, I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit on that, because I think that's a very exciting opportunity, because I know a lot of people want to work in Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's I mean, we've got the best job in the world, and a really lean team. It's just 2 people looking at hiring a third, travel around the world and help people educate others on Bitcoin. It's great. I will say, if you're going to apply, please do not fill out the, why do I care about Bitcoin section using ChatGPT. That's an instant rejection. So, and it's so easy to tell. Like, I want passionate Bitcoiners. But no, I think it's a fun space, man. I mean, you guys have been working in the space for a long time now. What do you think? I think this is the fastest way to accumulate wealth and knowledge at the same time, and at the same time have a great time. Doesn't even feel like work. Like, I think I've been here for 4 years now, and it's flown by because we've just had so much fun. doing what we love every day in the Bitcoin space.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
to be clear, Mondays still always feel like work,
Yeah.
no matter what.
Yeah, I
but
mean,
no, to your point, it really, that's the point. It's like we love what we do, and really, even though we're here very focused on Simply Bitcoin doing well, but it really is like, it does feel like you're on a mission and, you know, trying to get more people into Bitcoin. And it does feel bigger than us at times. But yeah, hey, you know, I'd be lying if I didn't say some Mondays still feel like work. But the rest of the time is great.
Yeah, and then like just like the industry too, man. Like the industry has so many ups and downs. I don't think I would want to work anywhere else, but at the same time, it's like I feel like I got into this, you know, simply like it was like 4 or 5 years ago, and I was so giddy, and I was like, you know, like this, like, you know, young guy. I'm like, yeah, let's do this thing, and then you like learn like the whole business dynamics of it and people, and like, you know, that part
It's
is
very
like,
cutthroat.
yeah, it's extremely cutthroat, and that part is, you know, I think that kind of sucked a little bit, but yeah, I mean, just growing to get like growing the podcast has been incredibly fun. Collaborating with, you know, Bitcoin companies, we've done a ton of work with you guys. We love you guys. Yeah, man, but it's definitely not all. It's not a
It's still work, guys. It's still work.
It's still work. It's still work for sure.
It's the most competitive industry in the world, whether you're in mining, but you know, at the end of the day, we're here to try to acquire more of these Bitcoin for ourselves. This is the most scarce asset on the planet. So in my opinion, it's the most competitive industry in the world. And the amount of people, what's crazy to me to see just in the last year, if you think about all the new kind of faces and companies, there are people who have been here for a year that have more expertise than us after 6, 8 years in this space. You know what I mean? Just like brilliant minds coming into Bitcoin, understanding it immediately, like starting new companies, taking off. It's not going to get easier, you know? And that being said, that should be motivating. Like your first 10 Bitcoins are hard. The next 10 will be even harder. It's only going to get crazier and crazier. So it's a great time to quit the fiat job and jump into Bitcoin, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So guys, check out the link in the description. Don't use ChatGPT to fill out the thing. How will you know it's not ChatGPT?
You know, I see a couple of spelling errors in there. That's always reassuring. But no, I'm getting applications where it's like at the end it'll say like, "Is there anything else I can help you with?" I'm like, I don't want to talk to you again. Like,
that's hilarious.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. So let's talk about. I don't know how you guys are gonna up the game from Nashville, because you guys really freaking crushed it. Bitcoin 2025. It's going to be at the Venetian Hotel, May 26th to the 29th. McShane, I know that you're holding your cards very close to your chest. But is there anything you could reveal to the 2,200 people watching live right now?
I guess I have one. If you're an OG, you might find this exciting. But Trace Mayer is going to come out of hiding and come speak at this event, which I'm pretty excited about. I know we ran into him at Saylor's over New Year's, so it's kind of his first public appearance in a few years there. But outside of that, I mean, the lineup is incredible. It's really strong, and it's growing stronger. I don't want to name drop too many people. We've got some exciting ones already on the website, but I think the level is getting pretty insane. We should have a pretty interesting announcement in the next week or two here potentially. There's some really interesting collaborations and opportunities in Vegas that are unique to Vegas that we'd like to take advantage of. So I don't know, stay tuned. I would say, like, based on the pace of tickets and hype and the level of people reaching out to speak at this is far and away going to be, we're going to beat our previous 2 records for the the world's biggest Bitcoin conference. But this will be if the price cooperates, this could be it's one of the most exciting events in the world at the time. There's no doubts that we'll have all eyes on us, the entire media industry, and hopefully all the citizen reporters from X and all the other platforms there too, just having a great time. So get your tickets now, and or come apply to come participate in some way if you want to speak or something.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, man. I'm incredibly excited. Nashville 2024 was absolutely incredible. It was definitely a conference that no one's ever going to forget. Trump's historic speech. I would say it's on the level of Bitcoin 2021, which was the year that Nayib Bukele made his announcement. I would put it up there in terms of Bitcoin conference from a historical context. And of course, RFK Jr. just one-upping Trump the day before. Okay, McShane, so you knew about Saylor. Did you know about Trump and RFK's speech?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we I would say advise on. We help these politicians, develop their Bitcoin understanding. Been working with them for years to do that. So, especially RFK. RFK really did his homework and came back to shock us. I mean, I don't know if people remember, but he came to our event twice. He came before it was cool. He's the first presidential candidate, U.S. presidential candidate, to speak at our events. And if you go compare his two talks, it's absolutely amazing. You know how much he outdid himself and how much he grew on that speech. That being said, it's still these are words. This is that can be very exciting, but I'm more of a let's see what you could do kind of guy. So that's pretty good proof of work, but there's always more. There's always more that can be done in this space. And I'm hoping RFK can deliver. As well as all these other, we also had Tulsi, Vivek. These people can all affect change in the Bitcoin ecosystem from, whatever their various positions are. I think, Trump administrations tend to be a little bit unstable at first. We'll see where a lot of these then presidential candidates and politicians land, but I think they can affect change wherever they are. So let's hold them accountable and keep them involved in the space.
Absolutely.
Hey, well, McShane, we were talking about this before the show, and it's really, and you kind of hit on it earlier in the show about Bitcoin and politics right now. And, the idea for a lot of Bitcoiners is like, are Bitcoiners winning right now? And I think kind of what you're talking about right now is a perfect segue into this conversation. Obviously, Bitcoin Magazine has done a lot of work to get influential politicians at these conferences, but what's like your general take right now with the whole Bitcoin and politics idea kind of smashing right now, and like our worlds are colliding? And I think the last time you came on, it was before we got all of this crazy news. So let's get an updated view. What is your general takeaway right now?
I mean, it just makes me more eager to accumulate more Bitcoin selfishly, for my family and friends. I'm still not a big, I don't know, political guy. I guess the job has kind of forced me to understand this stuff a bit better, but I find it really exhausting to try to keep up with all this day to day around the world. I don't know how you guys do it, but there's just so many stories that could be interpreted as bullish, and whether or not they're followed up with or anything actually comes through. Like, these are just bills being proposed, right? Whether or not they get into office, it just requires so much energy to stay on top of that. So I'm kind of more looking for ways that I can affect the world locally, through Bitcoin citadels, through day-to-day, like helping merchants and businesses that I care about in my life use Bitcoin as a store of value, but also to accept it for goods and services. I think this sort of bottom-up approach is more successful. I don't know if we've talked about this on this show before, but if you look at what happened in El Salvador, I mean, I'm excited for El Salvador, big fan of Max and Stacy and Bukele. I've been down there to experience it for myself. Nobody in El Salvador uses Bitcoin. The people don't give a fuck about it, and it's because it was I'm sorry, it's because it was a top-down initiative from the government. So I don't know what all this cheerleading, like, yeah, on paper this is great for Bitcoin, but it's like, I want to see the people accumulate this stuff before the government does, and before you have to buy it from someone like MicroStrategy or Wells Fargo or something like that. Like, I don't want people's only access to be through some sort of ETF or banking instrument, or secondarily through like stock market exposure. That's not bullish to me. I want people to be like, if you're going to get in this space, put in the work and learn to self-custody, and become self-sovereign, because that's just such a better civilization sort of amplifier. And I think it's important to question the incentives of all these new friends that we have found in the Bitcoin space, in politics, and these corporate executives that play nice for now. I'm not saying always be a cynic or a skeptic, but I'm just saying, it's important to take these things locally into your own hands and make sure that the people around you are in it for the right reasons, just so you don't get rug pulled in the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, McShane, it's something that I'm glad you put it that way, because I've noticed this as well. Like, you think with all of these people coming out, the suits or the adults in the room legitimizing Bitcoin, you think there would be more of a grassroots movement from individuals to be like, hey, you'd think they would look at these as signals to be like, yeah, actually, I need to hold Bitcoin. But it seems like retail and individuals out there are still like asleep at the wheel, and it's hard to pinpoint like why that reason is. Maybe it's a little different than the 2017 bull run, because now everyone has no money anymore. Remember, like, the money was easy in 2017 and everything was pumping, and now everyone is kind of feeling broker. Inflation's kind of hitting everyone. A lot of people are taking secondary jobs, and it's making hard for them to make ends meet. And you think with all of this like legitimization coming from these people, whether it's the banks, whether it's hedge funds, pension funds, nation states, the president of the United States, you think people would take Bitcoin more seriously. But it seems like, I don't know, on the grassroots level, individuals are still kind of asleep at the wheel. And it's maybe a lot of the FUD surrounding Bitcoin in the past, and they still have these old narratives around Bitcoin. But you think with all this news coming around, that people would just fully start to embrace Bitcoin, but it seems like they're lagging a lot on that front. And it's like, okay, what do we need to do? Is it just because Bitcoin isn't pumping that they're not actually embracing Bitcoin? But I'm glad you brought that up.
Right. And it's funny because people should economically plan usually the opposite of how they do. Like, it's not the price pumping that should signal you to buy. I mean, the real reason to buy, you find out later after you've already kind of bought the top a couple times, is for the freedom aspects, for the self-sovereign properties. And I just feel like that narrative just gets buried in the bull market, and it's a little bit frustrating to see. Like, I would like to see more work being done on layer 2 sort of scaling solutions or lightning adoption. Like, these are the kind of important initiatives that I want to hear more about day to day. Just, some state proposing a bill, it's bullish, but look, this stuff's largely been priced in, guys. I mean, this hasn't given us a bump in months now at this point. So I don't know what to tell you. The price is a distraction. 1 Bitcoin equals 1 Bitcoin. Focus on your self-custody and your security.
Wait, all I heard McShane say is the top is in, boys. It's over. 100K is the top for this run. Wrap it up. Prepare for a bear market.
Oh man.
It's important to consider. Bitcoin takes the path of Max Payne. That would be pretty painful if this is the top of our 500K super cycle or whatever people are calling for today.
$1 million super cycle.
Oh man. All right. Well, guys, definitely get your tickets to Vegas. Go to b.tc/conference/2025. McShane, do you have a promo code for them?
Try McShane. That better be an active promo code. Let me check. Do you guys have a promo code? If you have one, let's use yours.
I don't know if ours is still active. I don't know if it's still active.
I don't know.
Oh, wow.
Someone try right now. Is it Simply? I think it was Simply.
Well, guys, definitely go to the Bitcoin conference. We will be there. McShane's going to be there. It's going to be a great time. You definitely don't want to miss it. I'm sure McShane has some other announcements, which we're going to bring him back on the show in a couple months, and hopefully he can tell us more. But the breaking news announcement today was Trace Mayer is going to be making a comeback at Bitcoin 2025. Guys, I'm your host, Nico. Our guest today, McShane, and of course, my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. We're Simply Bitcoin. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace out, everybody.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.